welcome back to the YouTube channel. Hi, how are you? It's been a little while since I've filmed a video. Why? One, because maybe my own anxiety came back and I was just like, oh my god, I have no idea what I want to do, what I want to talk about, what this whole thing is or will be. Part of my 75 media, more just making sure I'm more consistent, is posting 2 times a week, and now I've decided that my 2 times a week are going to be Monday and Friday. So always look out for Mondays and Fridays, 5 to 7 p.m. UK time. So yeah, that's when like videos will come out of what I've posted. 2, because I just didn't know what to do with my hair. I just feel like whenever I straighten my hair or do anything with my hair, it just reverts and just looks insane. So regardless of what happens with this, I'm just going to post it and we're just going to be consistent regardless of what we look like. Anyway, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, because it means we grow, we do more things together, and yeah, it just means more content. It just makes it more fun. I'm going to be answering questions that are like the top 10 questions Googled or asked online about anxiety, or just about kind of your mindset and looking after yourself. So we're going to answer the top 10 anxious questions online that are asked online. The categories are more around like feelings, triggers, coping, knowing when things are going left or they're going right for you, and yeah, just going from there. Look, I'm a work in progress, but that's the whole point of this platform. We're a work in progress together. Have I got it figured out? No way. But we're going to figure it out together, and we're going to shine and do our best and live our best life by looking after ourselves and experiencing or exploring some self-understanding, just so we can be the best version of ourselves for ourselves and then also for other people. So yeah, I am no expert, but I've been there, I've done that, and I'm still, you know, going up and down. The first question that's like AI generated, of like the top 10 questions that I ask, is how does anxiety feel? The number one thing, it's really different for different people, and we all feel it very differently. For a lot of people, they have a lot of physical symptoms. For example, they might feel nauseous, they might, you know, get the shakes, or they might feel dizziness, they might feel a lot of things. For so many people, it's so many different things. It comes from very different areas within everyone's body. Some people get hot, some people get really cold, some people feel really faint, some people feel like there's like a breathlessness, and that can like potentially go down the road of like panic attacks, or just losing your breath and just not being able to, you know, control that or guide yourself through that. So for different people, it really feels really different. Your journey is yours. That's why I always say we're very much individuals. We very much do life and experience life very differently. So anxiety can feel very different to other people, but there is a difference between feeling anxious, feeling scared, and feeling fear. Anxiety is kind of like a feeling that is, this is how I'd explain it, it's a feeling that's like consistent and it's always like bubbling under the surface, whereas like feeling scared or feeling worried is a feeling that passes once an activity has been completed or once a phase has been passed through. That's how I'd explain it. But yeah, if you explain it differently, just leave a comment down below and tell me. What's the most common trigger for anxieties? Now, it's a little bit different. For a lot of people, there is like that underlying core trigger, like that, and for a lot of people, they probably don't remember what that core thing is, because it probably happened in childhood, they're probably really young, or it just happened at a time where they didn't think it was an issue, or they didn't think it was a trigger, but it was something that their body was uncomfortable with. We have to remember, innately as human beings, have that fight or flight feeling, and that's where that comes from, and it's super heightened when you're anxious. So actually knowing what your trigger is a little bit hard. As you get older, you quickly realize the things that make you feel more anxious, but they might not be the core thing that's caused it. It's about you personally. So everyone has their own trigger, everyone has their own thing, or their own like systems that really do it. For some people it's family, for some people it's friends, for some people it's work, for other people it's just life generally, and life is interesting and difficult, so it's not just you. How do I know which anxiety I'm experiencing? Now, the only way you can factually know is if you go to your health provider, your mental health team or mental health support, wherever, and you get a diagnosis. That's the only way you can factually know. But there's the power of the internet, and I think there's also that beauty in knowing yourself and knowing your body, and knowing like what you align with and what you connect with, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. So there's a lot of like umbrella terms, but sometimes you feel like, oh, that doesn't really suit me, or oh, I don't really align with that. Maybe I align with 2 out of 3 of those things, and I'm just figuring it out. Sometimes you can be like an amalgamation of it all, of all the types of anxiety. And yeah, I think doing your research, going to find information, or speaking to a professional, or speaking to like someone that's like experienced something that you feel like you're aligned with is really important. But yeah, the only way you can actually know is if you're like diagnosed. But you can look online and look at the different ones and see how they connect with you and see if that sits with you and that label sits with you. I'm personally not a fan of labeling myself. I just know what I'm experiencing and the things that I like and don't like, and the things that align with me and that don't align with me. I'm very much like, I am not an anxious person. Anxiety just happened to introduce itself to me, and we're working on it. We're trying to, unpack it, and work through it. I'm very much a happy-go-lucky, fairy, good vibes, see the best in whatever I can see the best in, and sometimes anxiety just introduces itself and comes in. So I'm like, yeah, we are not the same person. We're just like two experiences in one body. So that's just my personal take on it. But yeah, the only way you can defo know is if you're diagnosed. But you can do your own research, and you can, don't overwhelm yourself, that's what I will say, but you can go down the good old never-ending pit that is the internet. Not never-ending pit, that's a bit dramatic. Anyway, question that really comes up, how do I know if I'm improving or declining? So when I started my life coach challenge, the biggest thing I would tell people, it's based on like ratios. I think you're improving or things are going in the right direction when the ratio or is like tipped to the right side, or it's kind of like balanced. It's improving when you feel as though you're able to notice it and catch it and do something with those emotions and feelings and move on. It's improving, in my opinion, when you have more days where you're not feeling anxious or not feeling overwhelmed, or your mindset isn't playing up, then you don't. Improving doesn't mean it's completely disappeared and you're perfect overnight and everything's fine and you don't feel any weird type of way. I look at it as ratios. I'm like, is it 2 to 1? Are we balanced? Are we off balance? Like, what's the vibe? Like, do I feel anxious 2 times a week and then the other 5 days I'm absolutely fine, things are going well? Or is it like, I've realized twice a month I'm feeling a bit like, oh, when it used to be 5 times a month, so that's an improvement. I would say that there's probably a decline when you feel as though you don't want to do the things that you enjoy. That's the biggest thing. When you don't want to do the things that you enjoy and you feel like it's taking over and you feel like procrastinating, kind of staying in bed for long periods of time, or just not doing anything, or just wanting to numb everything. I feel like it's on a decline where you're like, I've done all the work. Like, I know all of my triggers. Like, I know everything under the sun, but I still cannot be bothered to do anything about it. That's when you're like, oh, no. Get up, come on. Let's go. Like, let's work on it. Like, don't give up. Because I have to do this myself. You have to keep reminding yourself that every day is going to be a task, is going to be work. It's going to be you willing to put in the work and willing to better yourself every single day. Like, you're not gonna wake up one day and you're just automatically gonna be like, yeah, I'm in the mood to do this. Sometimes we're just not in the mood to do certain things, but you keep going and you keep choosing your progression and your development. So that's what I've had to do recently. I saw myself like really dipping into old habits and I was like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to like actually step out of ourselves and work on it and be better and do better, because sometimes I might not have the answers for like where these feelings are coming from, but seeking support, seeking help, watching videos like this just allows you to feel not as alone, or like just not as like stuck in your cocoon of thought, and to just get it out. So that's how you know if you're improving or declining, in my opinion. Can anxiety, or does anxiety ruin your relationships? And it depends. I think my thoughts on that are, it can have effect on how we navigate our relationships. It can have an effect on how we look at relationships and certain conversations that we have. But what I've found is that when we lean into saying like, look, this is not me, this is not who I am, this is not how I self-identify, I am just thinking and experiencing a particular way, and if we're open and as honest as we want to be with the people around us, I always feel like transparency is so beautiful if you feel safe. And I think it's so important to know that if you feel safe, you can have a conversation with anyone about anything and it will never one, put them off, or two, make them look at you sideways and be like, huh, you're weird. I think it will just make them kind of finally understand every part of you and understand, oh, that's why she does that. Oh, that's why that certain thing and that certain conversation isn't a good place to start with her or them. Or it just means that you just have better and more fulfilling relationships. So it can ruin relationships if we give it power and if we kind of like feed into our triggers and feed into the things that we don't like. But what I've found is if you share them and if you're honest about your journey and what you're going on, and if you come online maybe and have these conversations publicly and just share, or not even dump, because sometimes it can be overwhelming for other people, but I think it's so important to share and have really open and honest as you feel safe and comfortable to have those conversations with the people that you love and care about. People also have their limits, and people are human too. So when people say that it can't ruin relationships that are meant to be in your life, well, people are human too. Like, they get fed up, they get frustrated, they are confused, they get tired, they also want to zone out, they might be experiencing their own things. So it's important that we all communicate and learn to communicate. And yeah, it's not easy, but if we try, it cannot ruin our relationship. What are the questions that I had that I wish other people, like somebody else, could have answered? And the main questions that I had was, one, would this last forever? In all honesty, you might have the same feelings come up now and again, and new things will trigger you because you're going to keep changing, you're going to keep being a new person. So things are going to be like, oh, I don't like that, but you're going to work through it and you're going to learn to work through it. And if you choose and make an effort and make it a priority, you will learn to live your best life, or just live a life that completely aligns with you. So yeah, does it get better? Who actually knows? But it's part of the journey. You have to keep going, you have to keep trying, you have to keep making an effort. The second one would be like, oh my gosh, could I pass this down, or could I like lend this like any future kids that I have or the people around me? Could I cause for them to have anxious moments? And really and truly, that's anxiety too. You're future focused and you're thinking about other people before you're thinking of yourself. And if you're working on yourself and you're doing the best you possibly can, then that's all you can do. That's all you can promise yourself to do, is the best you can. In life, there will be different things and people will experience things outside of you that have nothing to do with you, and that will bring traumas. Like, we're all destined to experience things that we don't like, that aren't ideal and that don't feel good, because a lot of things in life are not ideal and don't feel good. So that's part of life, to have these extensions, but it's not part of life for them to be debilitating and make you feel like you just don't feel like yourself, and that's not normal. Another question I would have loved if someone had answered: you black girls feel like this, like, what's the black girl experience? And the black girl experience for me isn't really that different for everybody else. I would think I quickly realize other people are experiencing the same things, and they're probably just waiting for someone else to put their hand up first and to be like, hey, me too. But yeah, it's kind of like the Me Too movement. Like, it always takes a brave individual to get the ball rolling, and then more and more people share their journey. So yeah, if you feel like you're alone, or if you feel like, oh, my experience feels a little bit different to somebody else's, or like, I don't know if I can relate to that, or that just doesn't fit me in my cultural vibes, open up the doors, have those conversations. And it's always so tiring, especially being a black woman. It's like, oh, you're always having to do the work and having to do the explaining. But it's sometimes worth it for somebody else behind you. It always takes that one person to be brave. So if it means that I do that work and I do it publicly, so you don't have to feel like you have to carry that burden, I'm ready to do it for you, my love. Happy to, more than happy to. But I hope that was helpful. I hope it gave you kind of like an insight to the questions that other people ask, and what other people want to know and what they're interested in. So yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And let's keep making more. This is the first one for this week. Let's see you on Friday. Bye.